The New Jersey Devils are, without question, the most mediocre hockey team in the NHL. How are they going to get out of it? What can they do to get out of it? And we even have some really BS controversy going around social media involving Jack Hughes and his supposed injury, and so much more here on this edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. Yeah, that's pretty much what this New Jersey Devils team is at this point, ladies and gentlemen. As always, what's going on? It's Neil from the Devil's State of Mind podcast, and hope you guys are having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this episode. Obviously, if you are a fan of this team, it hasn't been fantastic over the better course of the last month and change. But as always, thank you guys for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. Really do appreciate it. As always, hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays. The new year is right around the corner, literally on Wednesday. It's going to be New Year's Eve. And then obviously Thursday will be the first day of 2026. And I think for the New Jersey Devils, 2026 can't come fast enough, as dating back to the middle of last year, there is not a team in the National Hockey League that is more mediocre than the New Jersey Devils. I can't stress that enough. And I'm going to prove to you today with some stats that prove 1000% how mediocre this team is. But before we get into that, I have to quickly recap what was yet another very aggravating loss, this time to the hands of the Washington Capitals, as the Devils dropped this one at home, their first game back from the holiday break, 4-3 in overtime. I guess we'll start with the good news. The good news is that Jesper Bratt got himself going in this one with one of his better performances of the year, and certainly of late, as he potted not one but two goals for the Devils. He scored each of the first two goals for the team to get themselves going. The Devils did have a lead in this one. Cody Glass scored 32 seconds after Jesper Bratt had scored his second to give the Devils their first and unfortunately only lead of the game. And that was pretty much where all the good ends, because before any of that happened, with 0.3 of a second left to go in the first period, Jonas Siegenthaler, for whatever reason, instead of holding on to the puck and letting the clock run out to end the period, decided to try to just dump it out. And instead turns it over, and the Capitals get to it, and a nice feed from Capitals player in the corner leads to Protas getting himself a tap-in goal with 0.3 of a second left, and gives the Capitals the 1-0 lead going into the second period. That is just one of the many examples that shows you just how easily this team can just make a stupid mistake. Not even just a mistake that happens every now and then, but consistently making stupid mistakes. Things that are just unforgivable, that just cannot happen. And they do it anyway. So again, Devils give up the first goal. Protas scores it. Just can't happen. It just can't happen. Devils came out flying in the early goings of the second period. Bratt gets himself, as shown here, power play goal. Devils were just continuing to push. And then late in the second period, we get our second dumb mistake of the game, where Jack Hughes is in the slot in his own zone, just trying to get the puck out, and makes a horrific pass that is intercepted by 3 different Capitals players. Protas gets it to Anthony Beauvillier, who beats Jake Allen and gives the Capitals the 2-1 lead going into the third period. So that's strike 2 for this Devils team in this game. Then you go to the third, as mentioned. Brack gets himself a goal where he basically turned around and threw it on net, which good things happen when you put the puck on the net, if I do say so myself. Brack gets a goal. He's now up to 8. And again, 32 seconds later, Cody Glass gives the Devils the 3-2 lead off a great feed from Connor Brown, who basically, again, just throwing it on net. And he connects with Glass, who beats Thompson to give the Devils the lead. And while Adam Hamway, the Devils PA announcer, is announcing the goals that ended up giving the Devils the lead, Alex freaking Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer to ever play the game, the only player with 900 plus goals in his career and counting, is left wide open on the left side in the slot and buries it into an open net to tie the game at 3. With Dougie Hamilton once again playing half-ass defense and just coasting and letting Ovechkin go. Not even being aware of where the greatest goal scorer to ever play this game wide the hell open. I can't fathom how bad that is. And after that goal, for the next 8 or so minutes remaining in the period, the Devils, 11, let me clarify, a little less than 11 minutes, the Devils played penalty kill hockey. They just allowed the Capitals to continue to push. The Devils didn't really have a response. And essentially, just like in the game against the Islanders on Tuesday of this past week, they were just hoping that they could hold on and get to overtime. Fortunately for the Devils, this time around, they got to overtime. And then we get to overtime. And the Devils controlled the puck for the majority of it. They had a couple of really good chances. But as we've seen of late, they can't finish. They can't finish. And eventually, Jacob Chychrun gets a step on Paul Cotter, who, why the hell is he out there for overtime in the first place? Gets a step on him. And ultimately, on the first and only shot of the entire overtime for the Capitals, it gets past Jake Allen, and the Capitals come back to win the game 4-3 in overtime. Protas with a 3.9 for Washington. Jacob Chychrun having himself another really good game, continuing to have a phenomenal year, his 15th of the year. And the Devils drop this one at home, and they continue to struggle at home after starting 9-0-1 to begin the year. And that is currently, in terms of games and everything, where we stand right now here on December 29th, 2025. The Devils now have lost 3 in a row. They are 0-3 since Jack Hughes came back in the lineup. I was at the game where Jack Hughes, Arseny Gritsuk, Timo Meier were all back in the lineup. It was supposed to be a big game. It was supposed to be a big moment for the team that finally we're back to relative health, and we are playing a Sabres team who had won 5-6 in a row at that point, but still a Sabres team that the Devils can absolutely beat. Jack Hughes scores the first goal. The place is up for grabs. The Devils do nothing the rest of the game. They do nothing and lose 3-1. I predicted they were going to lose 4-1 because of so much hype around Jack Hughes coming back and everything. The Devils were going to have a letdown. And of course they did. They have a lead late against the Islanders. Jacob Markstrom has that stupid turnover that leads to the Islanders tying goal. The Devils, just like against Washington, were holding for dear life, just trying to get to overtime. Didn't get there. Mayfield scores, Adam Pelech scores a goal on just, again, what just shouldn't happen. With less than 2 minutes to go in the game, and the Islanders ultimately win, take both points. The Devils have several days off because of the holiday break. I'm sure for all of us, it was much more enjoyable when we didn't have to think about or worry about watching this Devils team play. We come back on Saturday night, knowing that we needed to win, knowing that the Devils at this point have won just 3 of the near 10 games that they've played against the Metropolitan Division, and they once again do just enough to lose the game. For the first time in 2 weeks, the Devils had scored 3 or more goals, and they still lost the game. They got that loser point, but they lost the game. Have lost 3 in a row. And let's go to the standings while we're on this topic, because I want you guys to understand just how aggravating this whole situation is. So if you look at the standings as of today, the Devils are currently in a 4-way tie for the second wild card spot with a depleted Florida Panthers team, a Sabres team that has now won 8 in a row. Remember when the Devils won 8 in a row? That seems like so long ago. Mind you, the Sabres are 8-0 since they fired Kevin Adams as their GM. I wonder if there's another team in the league that maybe should consider that. And maybe, just maybe, it might get them going. You're also tied with the New York Rangers. The Rangers are the worst team I have ever seen play at home. They're 5-10-3. They are ridiculous this year. Yet the Devils and Rangers have the same amount of points. They're 1 point ahead of Pittsburgh. They're 1 point ahead of Ottawa. They're 1 point ahead of Boston. They play the Leafs tomorrow, who are 2 points, only 2, behind the Devils. And then they play the Blue Jackets, who are only 4 points behind. Do you understand how bad this is right now? The only saving grace is that there's so much parity in this league that even if you lose 2 or 3 in a row, it doesn't seem like the end of the world. And to this very day, I have no idea how this Devils team won 8 in a row to begin the year. I don't. I have no idea. I'm flabbergasted by it. I'm flabbergasted because it just doesn't seem like this team is capable of doing that. But you look at the standings, and thank God for the 8-game winning streak, because even if they had won half of those games, they would be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. That is how bad this year has been up until this point for the New Jersey Devils. Now, another thing that should give cause for concern, major cause for concern, is our friends over at Money Puck. Money Puck currently gives the Devils a 35.8% chance to make the damn playoffs. The Panthers, the Senators, and the Devils' own division rival, the Philadelphia Flyers, all have just over a 50% chance of making it. The Devils, according to Money Puck, have the third, quote-unquote, easiest schedule the rest of the way. Yet right now, they have a 35.8% chance of making the damn playoffs. The Buffalo Sabres nearly have a 40% chance. Thank God for their 8-game winning streak, because obviously if they didn't have that, they'd be towards the bottom of the NHL. So where are we right now? Where we are right now is a team that, just like last year and the year before that, are slowly but surely sinking. This is a sinking ship. And once again, we have a front office that is doing nothing to improve it. They did very little to nothing in the offseason to improve this team. And now Tom Fitzgerald, because of his own mistakes, can't do anything to help this team. That is where we are right now. The Devils are 20-16-2. They are, and these are two stats that Alex Chauvency of the Hockey Writers put up that both came right after the Devils lost to Washington. The Devils were 16-7-1 at Thanksgiving. 16-7-1. Okay? Obviously, that was right before Jack Hughes got hurt, or right after he got hurt. But again, the Devils were still very much in a fine position despite all of that. Since Thanksgiving, the Devils are an embarrassing 4-9-2. They are 7 games below 500. If you don't count the 2 overtime losses, they have lost 11 out of the last 15 games that they've played. And somehow they are still very much in the thick of the playoff hunt. But they are also still very much in the thick of being at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And here is the most damning stat that proves just how mediocre this Devils team is. Since December 27th of 2024, a little over a year ago, after the Devils destroyed the New York Rangers 5-0 at home, and were going into the holiday break as the hottest team and best team in the NHL, the New Jersey Devils are 39, 38, and 6. That is the definition of mid. This is the most mediocre hockey team I have ever watched. And what really sucks about it more than anything is that there isn't any signs that things are going to get better. The analytics don't prove it. The eye test doesn't prove it. And the realities of cap space, or lack thereof, don't prove it either. So let's go to cap space, shall we? Let's continue on with this trend of absolute horseshit that I've seen and that we've all seen. And this is from Puckpedia. Great place, by the way, to get your cap space and everything that revolves around that information. Let's bring this up. The Devils' projected cap space is minus $4.5 million. They currently have just under $800,000 in cap space. This is, mind you, that they still don't have Evgeny Dadonov back, who we don't even know if he's ever going to come back this season. Shimon Nemec, who now after yesterday told we're still several weeks away from him coming back. And then we have Jonathan Kovacevic. Now, here's the great thing about Jonathan Kovacevic. We have seen over the last couple of days, really over the last week or so, him actually playing and practicing with the team. Practicing. And he practiced with the team, and he wore a full contact jersey. Full contact. And then we were told by Sheldon Keefe that he is still ways away. To that I say, That is a lie. And I'm not going to point the finger at Sheldon Keefe for that, for lying, because he's forced to. And I'll tell you why. Jonathan Kovacevic is making just under $5 million a year. The Devils have to move cap space just to legally allow him to come back onto the roster. And they can't do it because Tom Fitzgerald has given no move, no trade clauses to guys like Dougie Hamilton, Andre Palat, and a few others. I mentioned it before. The Devils are tied for the most non-move / no trade clauses in the National Hockey League. And this team can't do anything about it right now. Most likely, the Devils are going to drag out Kovacevic coming back until either they can or the season ends and they can't move enough cap space to get him back. The two guys I just mentioned that are the likeliest people that need to be moved from a cap perspective are Dougie Hamilton and Andre Palat. Both of them have 10-team no trade clauses and no move clauses. It's already been reported essentially that several players, or at least one player, has vetoed several trades and not allowed himself to be moved in order for there to be cap space. Andre Palat, whether he's lying or not, has said that he was not asked to be moved. He was not asked to waive his no move clause. Dougie Hamilton has not denied it. He hasn't said yes, but he hasn't said no either, that he hasn't been approached. The very likely thing is that both of them have vetoed several trades so that they can stay here, and Tom Fitzgerald continues to not have any ability to move guys. People want to point the blame and the fingers at Dougie Hamilton and Palat because they're being selfish and that they're not doing what's best for the team. Here's the thing. They were not the ones that asked for the no trade or no move clauses. That was a decision made by Tom Fitzgerald and by the agents of those players. And so why would Dougie Hamilton or Andre Palat, who have families and have built things in New Jersey for the last several years, why would they just take up everything and move to another team? Most likely to a team that is not a contender. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? From just their own perspective. Dougie Hamilton chose to come here. Okay? He chose to come here several years ago. And the first couple of years of this deal, it looked great. It looked like the Devils made the right move. The reason that it's now an issue is because Dougie Hamilton has gotten hurt several times and is a shell of what he once was. That is the reality of that. Andre Palat should have never been signed in the first place. As I've said numerous times before, he was a panic move and a panic signing after the Devils failed to sign the late Johnny Gaudreau. The Devils should have pivoted away from free agency after not getting Johnny Gaudreau. Getting Andre Palat for the money that he's making and knowing that most likely he was not going to be the same player that he was in Tampa was a very bad move. It was horrific. And as I've mentioned before, there are many other moves that either Tom Fitzgerald made or did not make that have ultimately gotten the Devils to where they are now. And that's really the most aggravating thing with all of this, is the reality that the Devils are stagnant and they can't move forward until cap space gets moved, and also pretty much the front office has to change. Another damning thing for Tom Fitzgerald is this, and also Dan McKinnon as well, the assistant GM of the Devils, who also is the general manager of the Utica Comets. The Comets just got their ass handed to them by the Belleville Senators at home 7-0, and are the worst team, if not close to the worst team in the AHL. Now, a lot of the time when your AHL team isn't good, usually that means a lot of your young talent is in the NHL and the NHL team is good. The Devils are not that. The Comets stink. That's the reality of it. Tom Fitzgerald has failed numerous times at drafting, developing, and free agency. He does do pretty well for the most part in trades, but that's it. That's it. And everybody keeps saying, well, you can't fire the GM in the middle of the season. Yes, you damn sure can. Because guess what? There's already evidence that when you remove one of the bigger issues with the franchise, all of a sudden the team emotionally and mentally find new life. The Buffalo Sabres have won 8 in a row since Kevin Adams got fired. Jarmo Kekalainen, the new GM of the Sabres, hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything yet. But the team has found new life. And all of a sudden, you're looking at them instead of thinking, well, this is just another lost year. If they could keep up this play throughout the rest of the season, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to finally break that streak and get in the playoffs. So the question is, why can't the Devils do that? Why can't they do that? What is stopping them from doing that? And people will say, well, if you fire Tom Fitzgerald, who are you going to replace him with? What does it matter? What does it matter? Because the longer that he's still in charge, Tom Fitzgerald, the more that everything will remain the same. So if we're going to go off of, well, the Devils are not going to fire Tom Fitzgerald now, when wouldn't he be fired? If the Devils don't make the playoffs, which would be beyond embarrassing, and if they don't get out of the first round and at least go deep into the second round, Tom Fitzgerald should be fired. There is no reason to keep him around because the injuries are now not an issue and the Devils have still lost 3 in a row. They can't score consistently. The most consistent thing this franchise has been for the better part of, honestly, since 2012, is consistently inconsistent. That's what they've been. That is what they've been. So we are in a position right now where we have absolutely no hope right now. And the Devils also continue to embarrass themselves in other areas other than just the play on the ice. The Devils have some of the worst food at the Prudential Center. They do. They just do. It's bad. I don't eat there. A lot of times now I will eat before I get to the game because it's not worth spending the money when I've already spent money on tickets. It's not worth spending my money for crappy food that's overpriced and overpriced beer. I took a bunch of friends to a game. I took them to the game against the Sabres, right? My friend bought three beers at the game. Cost them damn near $70. That's how bad it is. The only thing that people I see eating at Devils games that's even half decent is Auntie Anne's. I mean, that's how bad things have gotten. And the tickets are overpriced for a team that's mediocre and is giving you little to nothing to be excited about. But then we have the situation with Jack Hughes. And I know it's not Jack specifically that's doing this. It's not. And no, this is not about his relationship with Tate McRae. I could give a rat's ass about that, because I don't believe that it's affecting his play at all, because it's not. This is on the Devils' social media team and what they've been doing for the better part of the last several weeks. They have been doing a really poor job of covering up Jack Hughes and the potential real severity of what his injury was. Remember, Jack Hughes said when he came back that the injury was very close to being a lot worse, which translates to being done for the year. But this last one, which came right before the game against the Capitals, takes the cake. I'm going to show you if you're watching here on YouTube. What do you see here? People could look at it right away and say, well, it's just Jack Hughes putting his hand in his pocket. But there's a problem. Look to the bottom of the picture. The Devils cropped out Jack Hughes' hand and made it look like he had it in his pocket, yet forgot to crop out the shadow of his hand on the bottom. What the hell are you doing? That is so sad that you can't even do that right. Jack Hughes wasn't at the autograph signing yesterday. I genuinely am believing now that once again, Jack Hughes was rushed back. And I think the injury is not fully healed. I don't think Jack is fully healthy. Granted, nobody's fully healthy right now. But it just feels like to me that Jack is hurt again. You know, skating wise, he looks totally fine. He can't take faceoffs. This is the second season where he gets an injury and then can't take faceoffs anymore. I don't see him shooting as much as he used to. That I believe that this injury is more severe than any of us have been led on to believe. And you doing this and doing a piss poor job of it, mind you, it's just so embarrassing as a franchise. And that's just showing you where this New Jersey Devils franchise is. I have been a Devils fan since the mid-2000s. So 2005, 2006 was my first year watching this team. I have seen this team rip my heart out watching the Flyers, the Hurricanes numerous times, the Los Angeles Kings in 2012, just absolutely ripped my heart out to the point where I was crying. I was a kid, but I was crying because I was that upset about it. In my conscious life of being a New Jersey Devils fan, I have seen the Devils make the finals, which is great, but I've seen them make the playoffs about a handful of times, maybe a little more than a handful of times since I became a fan. In the last 13 years, so dating back to losing in Game 6 of the 2012 finals, the Devils have made the playoffs a total of 3 times. You have enough seasons of missing the playoffs to make it a decade. The Devils have become a very mediocre, irrelevant franchise. 22-23 was supposed to be the beginning of a really exciting period for Devils fans. With the core that they had established, the contracts they were on, they had cap space, they had talent. I mean, they had everything. And from the end of 22-23 to the present day, the Devils have become an incredibly mediocre team. that continues to have so much hype around them to begin the year, and they constantly go below expectations. They don't even come close to reaching anything that's positive. I had so many people during the offseason asking me, what would I consider to be a good season for the Devils? To me, it was very simple. They had to go further in the second round and maybe even get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. And through the first 10 games, how could you not feel hopeful that that was going to be the case? But the two constant things reared their ugly head yet again: injuries, lack of depth. The injuries, it's just something that we've gotten used to. Lack of depth, that's on the GM. Tom Fitzgerald, I used to be such a defender of his and how he was building this team. I have no hope, respect, or belief in him at this point. He has taken a golden opportunity when he took over and has squandered it. And I don't know how the Devils can get out of this mess right now. I don't. I have no idea. I'm at a loss for words and understanding of how they can get to this point. I do not know. I don't know. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And at the end of the day, I just want the Devils to stop being what they've been. I'm tired of getting my hopes up at the beginning of the year just to watch them get hurt, have no depth, and be mediocre year in and year out. And if Joshua Harris and David Blitzer just continue to allow things to happen the way they are, then we know what the ownership thinks of this team, that it's fine, they're making money, what's the problem? So I always say, the interest of the owners is not the same as the interest of the fans. Doesn't happen very often where the ownership and the fan base are in the same thinking and are at the hip when it comes to what they want to see. I mean, none of HBSC's teams are any good. None of them are. The Sixers, no. The Devils, certainly not. They have Crystal Palace in English soccer, and at least they won the FA Cup, but that's about it. They're not doing anything else. The Washington Commanders just had another abysmal season. What have they done that has made them any sort of relevant owners other than the fact that they make a lot of money? So that's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. And I'll say this. I will continue to do this podcast. I will continue to do my writing. I will continue to put content out there because I'm a fan of this team. I care that much. Been a fan most of my conscious life, and I will never stop supporting this team. No matter how good or how bad they get, I will always be a New Jersey Devils fan. That will not change. However, I know that there are people out there that have said, not just recently, but in the past, that they need a break, that they don't want to keep watching this team. It's bad for their mental health and their psyche and everything. To them, I say, I do not blame you. For anybody out there that's going to call them a fake fan and that they're not going to, that they don't stick by through the thick and thin, get lost, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and it is just sports. People are allowed to stop watching or supporting something that is not good for them and not enjoyable. Look at the New York Jets. Look at the Giants here in this area. I can understand people not wanting to continue to watch these teams and be a fan of them when over the last decade plus, what have either of these franchises done? At least with Giants fans my age, you could say, well, we have Super Bowl 42 and Super Bowl 46. That's great. There are Jets fans in their 50s that have not seen the Jets even come close to making the Super Bowl. They haven't made the playoffs since I was in middle school. And you're going to crap on fans who basically say, I've had enough? Look at what just happened yesterday. They could have given up 50 points to the Patriots. They were that piss poor. It was embarrassing. Why would you be a fan of that? Why would you care? Everybody's entitled to care to whatever extent they want to care. And I'd say the same thing to Devils fans, who are some of the most passionate fans in the league. They have stuck by this team no matter what has happened. There are fans that have not seen this team be relevant at all. I've seen it. I know people. I've made many friends at Devils games who literally just go now because it's a social event that allows them to see other friends. And I don't blame them. Good for you. And that's just what it is, guys. That's where we're at. The New Jersey Devils are a mediocre hockey team. And that is actually the worst place to be. Because you either want to be in a position where you are rebuilding with the hope that you're going to get good in the next couple of years, or you're good enough to compete, get in the playoffs, and make a run at winning a Stanley Cup. You don't want to be in the mushy middle. And that's exactly where this Devils team is right now. That's exactly where they are. That's where they've been for years now. The New Jersey Devils are arguably the most overhyped team over the last couple of years. It's the same thing every year, and they continue to allow the same things to happen. So, at this point, it's not on the players exactly. It's not a coaching problem. The front office is a joke. And if ownership just continues to allow this front office to stay there and do what they've been doing, why should we expect them to be anything but mediocre? Why? There's no point to it. There's no point to it. So the Devils are 4 games away from the halfway point of, 3 games away from the halfway point of the season. And it feels like yet again that the Devils will do very little to improve this team, will just continue to throw out the same things and just bank on hope. Just bank on hope. That's what Tom Fitzgerald's really good at. Banking on the hope that he gets bailed out by everyone else. That's just what it is. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at this point, guys. I don't want to get this overly aggravated and rant and rave all the time. But what else is there to talk about? What else is there to talk about? One thing else that we could talk about is our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. The holidays are heating up on Pick 6, DraftKings' newest fantasy pick'em game. Make your NBA picks for a shot to win big cash prizes this holiday season. And here's how it works. Just choose more or less on 2 or more player stats. The more accurate your picks, the bigger your payout is. It's the kind of upside you'll only find on Pick 6. Not those other pick'em sites, and it's available in most states, including Texas, California, Georgia, and many more. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. New DraftKings customers can play just $5, you get $50 in Pick 6 credits with code THPN. Ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. So at least I had DraftKings to talk about. That was, I guess, somewhat positive. And as always, shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. Last thing here before we say goodbye for this episode, going to quickly show you what the Devils have in store for us in terms of the schedule over this week. Now, they start with a back-to-back starting tomorrow in Toronto against the Leafs. And after that, 24 hours later, they're in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. If you go back to that game against the Blue Jackets the first time, or the second time, first time at home, Brendan Dillon's 500 career game, a 1,000 career game. He got hurt. There was a lot of fighting. Devils ultimately lost, gave up a 2-goal lead. The Blue Jackets are definitely going to be prepared for a fight. Look at what just happened in their game against the New York Islanders last night. They're a physical team. Some capacities, you consider them a dirty team. Will the Devils be prepared for that? I do not know. But if they allow themselves to get involved in that a lot, they're going to lose the game. They're going to. Just like they did the first time. So that's what we have for tomorrow and also New Year's Eve. And then to begin the year 2026, the Devils have a home and home over the weekend. I will be at the game on January 3rd on Saturday, 3 p.m. matchup against the Utah Mammoth. Hopefully the Devils can get the season sweep over Utah. And then, for the first time since opening night, they started the first half of the year against this team. They begin the second half of the year against this team. They are at home against the Carolina Hurricanes, their kryptonite. And that will be fascinating. We will see where this team is by the time this week is over. And on that note, that's going to do it for this episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time to check out the episode. A little bit of a longer one than normal, but I just had to get it out, guys. I just had to get out my anger and frustration. I hope you guys understand. I'm sure you understand. As always, make sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube. We're up to 171 subscribers. If we can get to 175 before the new year begins on Thursday, that would be awesome. Would really love that as I continue to try to grow here on YouTube. So again, like the video if you like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new episodes, and tell your friends to do the same as well. As always, you can check out the podcast on audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, wherever. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. Goes a long way in helping continue to grow the podcast. Also follow the podcast on our social media platforms right here. Devil's State of Mind, both on Facebook and Instagram. Devil's State on Twitter. Also follow my TikTok, Neil.Villapiano. Just got over 500 followers on TikTok. I post clips from the podcast and also many other Devils related content over there. And search Neil Villapiano on BlueSky, just like Twitter. And you can get Devils and podcast updates over there as well. As always, make sure to check out all of the podcasts here on the Hockey Podcast Network, the #1 growing hockey podcast network in the world. Make sure you guys go check it out and follow us on all social media platforms at HockeyPodNet. This is probably going to be my last episode of the year 2025. Maybe we'll get another one in here, looking to maybe get a couple of guests just to kind of spice things up. The last episode we had was with Sports Illustrated's Jennifer Streeter. Definitely go check out that episode if you haven't already. Going to try to bring on some more analysts, some more insiders as well to get more perspectives on this very mediocre New Jersey Devils team. But as always, guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode, and we will see you in the next episode. Everyone, enjoy your New Year's Eve. Be safe. Hopefully, the Devils can end 2025 on a high note, maybe get a couple wins. Hopefully, they can begin 2026 anew and get off on the right foot there as well. But as always, continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every episode, whether we are good, bad, or mediocre, put those horns up, baby. And let's go, Devils.